My name's Phil Pass. I'm a director of House of Tartan here in Scotland, and today we're going to talk about the Bonnet Shop project. The project was begun because since the 1600s, an area of Scotland, Ayrshire, has been making bonnets. Bonnet making is so traditional in the area. They've been doing this since the 1600s, and in those days whole entire families used to, in the evenings, there was no electricity or anything of course, used to knit these hoods around the fire, and they used to look like this here, and they used to use 3 steel knitting needles to knit them, and the whole family would knit them of an evening, and they'd do this for the whole of winter. Once a year would come the big boss from Glasgow, from one of the guilds, and he would buy these things up, and he'd measure them and weigh them, and any that didn't make the grade in terms of weight and size were cut up to prevent poor quality products getting into the guilds. Then they would take these hoods away and they would felt them. I don't know what this process is called where you are, but here it's called fulling or milling or felting. It's basically you put your finished hood, your knitted hood, into a felting machine using warm soapy water. This will be a process quite familiar to anyone working with wool, and you beat it to death for a half an hour or a couple of hours with warm soapy water, and it turns into that.
Oh, quite a bit difference in insulation, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically it closes all the individual yarns together, because the yarn started life like this. Yeah.
Is there any particular kind of wool that
Yes,
they
it's
use?
sheep's wool, usually lamb's wool. You can make berets from poorer grade quality than this, but you get the very best result by using fine lamb's wool. Yeah. Anyway, so they used to sit around the fire and knit these of an evening, and in this area in Ayrshire called Stewarton. Once the dyers took these back to Glasgow, they dye them into various colours, usually in those days just black or brown. And then once this has been accomplished, the hood or the crown can be formed over a heated block, yeah, usually using steam and hot water, yeah, to block it out. And the end result is that you end up with something that looks like that. Once the trimming is attached, and then you fit these little trailing tails onto the back, which is part of the style of the bonnet. So this is known as a sort of a traditional Scottish bonnet. This here is probably the look that most people are accustomed to, which is called the dice bonnet. To get to the point, the factory that used to make these bonnets has closed its traditional bonnet making section down. And this happened in January of this year, and it happened to be the last such mill business making these hats anywhere in the UK, in Britain. So what we're trying to do now is to raise money to establish a new bonnet factory in the Bonnet Toun, and attached to it will be a little heritage area where visitors can see how the area came to be known as the Bonnet Toun, and just to tell something of the history going back hundreds of years. This particular factory in Stewarton started making these in 1845. So they've been making them for 178 years, and this is now stopped. So we're trying to raise money to set up this little mini factory. It'll have with it a shop where people can buy finished products, plus a lot of other traditional Scottish headwear products like flat caps made in tartan and stuff like that. The thing about this particular bonnet factory is that it'll have an area for visitors where visitors to Stewarton can see the bonnets actually being finished. So they can see them being taken off a production line and being finished. So it'll be sort of a visitor attraction, heritage centre and so on. And this is what this fundraising drive is all about.
Now, why have you decided to take this up?
In a previous life, I was in the headwear business, making a similar product for another company, and that company also has since closed, and the production in the UK has gone down from 6,000 dozen pieces a week to none. And the factory that just closed is the last factory in the UK making this product.
Now, you have a sign that talks about tartan in this shop. This is a tartan shop, so
Yes.
it is one of the most iconic things in Scotland. Anybody that ever sees the tartan, the pattern, thinks of Scotland. But in many ways, the cap, the hat, the bonnet, as you would call it, is as iconic. I look at these little ribbons and I think of a little Scottish lass walking down the street with these blowing in the wind.
It is very iconic.
Yes, and so in a way, this is as much a heritage project as the tartan might be.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it
Quite
exactly
not
on
that
a level,
much.
but it goes back several hundred years.
Yes.
And this image of the
That.
Tartan Glengarry, which anyone who's watched Tartan Week or the New York Parade in April will have seen. Most of the pipe bands on earth use this particular hat.
That's the Glengarry,
Yeah,
the cap that goes...
Glengarry, yeah, which is basically starts life as the same basic hood or crown. It's just made in a different way, where there's a lot of horsehair stiffening, really old-fashioned stiffening put into it, and then there's a lot of hand finishing that takes place. You can see here it's been hand finished all along here to produce this particular one. And there are other countries that produce these very much more cheaply, but the uniqueness of this is they were really the first bonnets made in the UK, and this particular style has been going since 1845.
So
You'll see pictures even of Winston Churchill wearing one of these in his military uniform days.
now these obviously the ribbons in the back. Does that mean something in particular?
No,
That's
I
just
don't think so. It
the
was
decorative
just
piece, but
a uniform fashion. There are two versions of this. The fixed trailing tail, which is that one, and then there's one, I don't know if we have a sample here, where you actually tie the back with it. Yeah, there it is. So this is a tie bow. So you can set the size by using that.
that's
Yeah.
a smart function.
So yeah, it's called a tie bow in this particular thing.
Now, this is one of the things that we've hit in the United States as well, where the mills are closing, and so but it's not just us. It's all over. The old skills, the institutional knowledge for things that we've been doing for hundreds of years in one way are just leaving because it comes down to economics, right?
Yeah. The ladies that make these, or used to make these up until January, are all in their mid-60s. And we've had a commitment from them to help us train new younger folk. So the whole idea is that when we finish this project, we'll have a fairly modern little small-scale production unit that has been staffed by people that have been taught by these ladies. Some of them have been making this product for 38 years. And the lady in particular who's committed to come and do the staff training and the quality control and so on, has been there for over 38 years making these particular berets. So the whole saving the skills, retaining the ability in the textile industry to make these little things. In the whole river of the centuries, these bonnets are not going to mean that much to anybody. But right now, they mean a lot because this is the end of them.
I have been to Scotland for the last 3 weeks, though, and off and on, in our trip to Britain. And heritage is such a large thing as a representation of a culture. We hunger for some sort of a tie to the old days or to meaning in our lives. And so I would argue that in some ways this is very much a representation. Everybody comes here to see Outlander because they want the romance of that and the connection to the old country. And we look at all of the tartans, and they are a family link and everything. So I would say that in some ways, I think the old skills like this are so important to preserve.
Yeah, no, they really are. I'm just trying to put it into context in terms of people don't think it's important because it doesn't really matter. But actually it does matter.
It does. Now, if people want to help to try to save this, you've started a project. So tell us about the project that you've started.
So it's basically this project here. It's a GoFundMe. We have got some local funding coming in terms of local sort of municipal and state support, but on a very small scale, and it is actually quite difficult in terms of the process. Getting state or federal funding, as you'd call it in the US. But this is our public appeal for it. It's called Keep Scottish Bonnets Alive in Scotland. And this is it here. It's on GoFundMe as Keep Scottish Bonnets Alive in Scotland.
All right.
And it would be really good if you could publicize that for us.
All right. Now, tell me about why this label and this hat looks not fresh off the press. This is an old company, correct?
Yeah, they've been making this hat this way since 1845.
All right, so we're going to bring a couple of these home, and we are going to do giveaways, but this is the history behind these pieces. They are not just something stamped out in somewhere that has the cheapest price possible. They are made in the old way.
Yes, they are.
Yes, so I'm assuming one of these sheep was probably long gone by now, or maybe the grandparents are long gone. When this...
No, those sheep are long gone. That's for sure. They are long gone.
Well, thank you so much. We
That's
will do our best, and boy, do we appreciate people like you that also do your best to try and save something that's really important.
We're trying.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.